All right, here we go. All right, so more logo development. I think that what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to use lowercase. That's too softer pencil. Lowercase letters. So I've got the D, the O. My middle initial is G, and the more typographical G is actually a pretty cool symbol. So I'm not sure what I can do with the G. I might not be able to use it, but if I have like I think just even like if you're like writing out your name and trying to keep it neat, you're still, as I mentioned in class, I know I've mentioned this before, draw it. I mean, you can like make a nice this like oval for an O, pretty easy to draw, just because you can just keep the pencil going in a circle or in an oval, and then like cut the top off. Might not be necessary for you to do it to that degree, but F's. So like straight lines are a little easier to control than curves. We'll curve that. This is actually just a nice warm-up, since this is the first thing I'm really doing today, and you can't really expect yourself to just jump in and start all the time. It is a little bit like exercise. When I was an athlete way back in high school and college, the first thing we did for cross-country practice is we would go out and jog a mile. Just jog a mile, easy. Coach told us, don't run hard, just to warm the body up, and then we would stop and stretch. Then we would do sprints. Like sprint, then jog, then sprint, then jog, then sprint, then jog. 100 meters at a time. And then we would stretch again. Then we would go on an 8-mile run. So I think a lot of activities do require a little bit of warm-up. So, all right. So even if I write something out like this, I might decide, doesn't look as good after I write it out, but kind of helps me think about the shapes of the letters I'm using. The D and the O have this common circle. I could draw it as an oval, more as a little bit of an oval. I got to sharpen that. Says the catcher. Now, the Miss Rabbit pencil sharpener is getting a little dull. If you didn't know this, you see there's a little screw in there. You can buy more of those blades and replace it with a tiny screwdriver rather than buying more of these things with the plastic holder. So less plastic is better for the world. Okay, so I've got the D, I got the O. I might want to try this. I mean, I could just jam them together like that, D, G, O. I can do this with like a hook G. I can do the, really what you'd have is like two of these ovals and then connect it. The way that G is actually written is like that. It sort of comes back. But that's kind of interesting. All right. Well, I think I got some ideas. So I'm going to turn the page. I'm going to get a pencil that can be the soft built. This is a 4B pencil. It's losing its point pretty fast, so it does show up very clearly. All right. All right. Good. Keep your pencils sharpened or close to it. All right. Eraser. Now, let's see what my business is. So last time I did fine art printmaking. Graphic design. I mean, graphics. I mean, the G. And this, I always like the more typographical A, which is, like that, as opposed to more like the cursive A. It actually interacts well with an R. So you gotta watch your spacing, or the kerning is the space between actually kerning is between words. Give myself a line there. Line there. I might just, if I want to keep my business open-ended, I could say graphics as opposed to graphic design, because maybe I'd rather be an illustrator, or maybe I want to leave it open to, since I teach history of furniture and interiors, and I know a little bit about the history of wall coverings, I might decide one day I want to design some really cool wallpaper. So that's more decorative arts. I'm going to make this, I want a line underneath. So I'm drawing this a little small at first because I'm still trying to figure it out. Smaller is a lot easier to control. If I draw this big, I need to make bigger motions that can be a little harder to control. All right, I want to think about how these letters, like my G, I'm going to make that little tail on the top here. I might even think about a shape between the G and the R. I'm going to make this like a serif. Yeah. Yeah, designing is not easy. You shouldn't make the assumption that it's easy. Even if you know what you're doing, when someone brings you a unique idea, you have to take some time and figure it out. And you should, because you should really do your best to respect your client enough that you're going to work at it rather than just throw something together and hope that they accept it. Um, I want to make this G loop back and underline it. So I'm trying that. Graphics. And maybe the S connects too. Yeah, maybe. Not sure. Yeah, I think a lot of times you got to see it in order to have an idea of whether or not it's going to be good. I might, like the C and the S might interact a little bit. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a little skinny here. All right. Well, so this is helpful to help me to think about what I want, what I just kind of like what I want things to look like. I might not even use that. No. Back to my initials. I would like the apostrophe on my between the O and the C in my last name. I've always liked that. Okay. And I think here I might look at some point I'm going to want to go and look at a typeface, often referred to as a font. So, which one? Nobody knows. It would help me if I'm thinking about how I draw these letters if I go and look at a typeface. So even if it's something, so this is a serif. Looks like some of these letters I'm drawing, I want to think about serif, sans serif, which just means without serif, which is the little foot right there. So there is there are some pretty common, like the Times New Roman is a very common one in word processing. I don't know I don't particularly like it because it's common. It's kind of dull actually to me. Some people love it. Some people don't care. Some people don't have an opinion about it. Um, but I would like to, I would think about like which one am I using? Even if I'm just using it as a way to draw the letters, but I'm not going to say this is this particular typeface. Some of them you would, if you're doing this professionally, um, with some typefaces, you would have to pay for the right to use it because there is a copyright on typefaces, and you can't, you might not be able to just lift it and use it because somebody designed it and it is somebody else's intellectual property. So think about that too. It's a better, it's, you're in, it's a little, you're in better shape if you think, well, I'm not going to just copy it. I'm going to look at it and make my own, like use it as a basis, but I'm not going to rip it off and then have to pay for it. But you might have a client that says use Helvetica because Helvetica is a good solid typeface. It's been around for a long time, and some people just love it. There's a documentary about the typeface Helvetica. If you're a geek about graphics and design, you might look it up. Okay, so this is good. I'm making some progress. I kind of like this, like, like some perspective where I could connect them. I'm not sure that would be useful in telling somebody like how I use graphics, but interesting. I just sort of occurred to this, like it's smaller, it's larger, looks like linear perspective. All right. Last time I did this with printmaking, this like the O made a really obvious like roller. I think I might like this too. I kind of like the across the diagonals and find the center. I could always measure it too. I can keep the G centered, but I also don't want it to be, I don't want it to be dead center on the X necessarily. I think I'm gonna have like a field down here for my name. I'm gonna try writing that up for size. Probably should be a little bigger. It's kind of nice. Okay, so I do like this where it has this elements of symmetry and asymmetry. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Grab ruler here. All right. So let's get this. So I'm measuring from the perforation. Excuse my congestion this morning, please. 1 inch from the perforation, and then 6. So I got this at 5 inches. I make 2 marks from a manufactured edge on the sketchbook so that I can line that up and do that. Two and 7, 2 and 7 gives me 5. There. Now, because I do want this centered, it's a little bit larger than this. Is a teeny bit crooked here. I'm going to fix that now. Because I'm going to measure. It's 5 inches here, so 2.5 for center. 2.5 for center. And when I make the mark, it's kind of like a drafting, old like hand drafting trick. That when you make a mark, rather than making like a up and down motion, put it on the spot and then just turn the pencil a little bit. It'll leave us a finer point, so it's easier to put the pencil right where you need it to go. Okay, that's maybe a little bit heavy, but all right. Now, I might try, this will be a little bit, that's not a bad idea. Turn this over. All right, so tracing paper comes in handy. It's not just to cover the surface of your projects when you turn them in, so see to it that you have some tracing paper, because I can draw that drafting dots. Have scampered off to some other place. There. Okay. I want the G. So when you get it larger, you can do some little more interesting styling on them, where it's smaller scale and you can't necessarily draw as much detail. I want to make that, I don't want to make that too, I don't want to get too tricky. I was thinking like, oh, look, I'm going to draw a spiral. That might just become a focal point that's not really doing anything important. Okay. Better. Okay. Now if I get this one inch, and then this is 1 3/4. 1 3/4. Put these marks down here. There. Yeah, that was right. This was too low. Okay. Not too bad. Good. This needs to get up there and come up higher. So after I freehand it for a little while, I might just, when measurements can help me to keep these a consistent height. I can see it's up there and here, so I need to make this a little larger. And something that's done with the letter O with some typefaces is to make part of it a little fatter, part of it thinner. It's kind of like the way you would draw it with like with a pen, like in calligraphy. Better. It's a little too. Now here, I'm getting ideas. Now, by the way, I did not, before I started working this morning, I did not plan this out. So this is just me, I'm pulling stuff out of my head. I'm just kind of like I'm just like working on, just sort of like, this is designing right here is what it is. If you can use design as a verb. You may hear this. I've heard this from people. Kind of drives me a little bit up the wall. Some people like to use idea as a verb, and it really shouldn't be, because it's really it's like jargon, vague and it's vague and it's trendy, but designing is designing. where it's, developing something for a specific purpose. So there's nothing wrong with just saying you are designing something. All right. Good. Now I'm starting to like it. I'm not sure about the loop down here. But I can see I might want something like, I'm going to try this like repetition of oval, oval, oval. This I need to, like this is where, like this G is where I need to really draw and just work on making this like a more pleasant curve. If you have something like an oval template, you could use an oval template. Okay. Let's just go down about another inch here. Okay. All right, that's not bad. I'm going to get rid of that silly. End up looking like a cinnamon roll or something. Like that little like pad foot. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing, if I'm drawing this and making it up, I don't have to necessarily follow the rules of a like a typeface. All right. I don't want to make it look, I don't want to be careless about how I do it, but also like this, there's this shape here, and this one, I think I might not do the serif because I want to have this repetition of this more triangular shape in here. Yeah, it might be better. I'm not sure. I kind of like the way this curves down here. These don't have to be the same shape. It's just something to consider. You want to think about negative shape. I want to think about how close they are to each other. I don't want them to be too, if they're far enough, if they're farther from each other, there should be a reason for it. If they're right up on top of each other, that could also look good. It might interfere with being able to read them. So if you do something interesting and creative with your choice, make sure that it doesn't interfere with the reason that you're doing it, which is to communicate information. All right. Duffy G. O'Connor, so we're keeping this all. Needs to be. This is going to come over a little bit. I wonder if I can just. If I can combine that. Gee, that could be really like kind of weird and confusing if I. Yeah, it could be something to do where these G's would occur close to each other, like maybe at a little bit of a diagonal. Let's see. Graphics needs to be like for the spacing. If I want to center the graphics underneath my name, then the G needs to be here. I think it'd be a bit of a stretch. It might be a bit of a stretch to like link these two, but maybe. I don't necessarily have to center it there, but it might look weird if it's not. Well, anyway, so here is an idea. And if I, let's say I work this out clearly on here, and I think, well, how am I going to get it onto this piece of paper? Well, you can see through it. I think what I'm going to want to do is I want to get graphite on the back of this to do a graphite transfer. If I put graphite behind it, like soft graphite, a soft pencil is best. If you, I hope you have one. This is a 4B pencil. Well, I'm putting it on a separate sheet there because, yeah, as long as I can still see it when I turn it over, don't just cover the back. I know some people might teach you to just put graphite all over the back of it, but then when you flip it over, if both sides have graphite, it can be hard to see what you have on the front. So you might ink it before you put this, or even after you put this on the back. And I'm not too worried about being, well, I want to make it accurate enough. I don't want to have to completely reinvent the thing on that sturdier paper. Like if you're transferring this to Bristol, you can see a little bit of the graphite came off. But I'll line this up here, and I think with a harder pencil, go back over it on the front. And you should have this taped down so that if it slips, so that it won't slip on you. But there, it's transferring the graphite to that bottom, to the sheet underneath it. Pretty good. Good enough that I can see it. Then And I might even continue making some changes. You know, to make this taper thin and then broad, and then thin, so thin on the side, broad on the top, which I would want to be consistent with all of my letters. How the heck did that happen? Well, I guess I'm going to have to make that a little bigger. That's okay. I think I just left out the broader section. Yeah. Yeah, you know, so what I find the more I'm doing this, when I figure out how I want to draw these, what it's going to look like, it's a lot easier for me to come in here and reproduce it. You know, drawing something for the first time, there's always going to be an element of figuring it out. And here I'm not, like now I know what I'm drawing, so I can sketch it a little bit more quickly. An odd appearance of a wood duck for some reason. Right. Better. All right, then my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 letters in graphics. Good one to go. There it is. Just wondering where this guy ran off to. Okay. So this I might. So now here, if you use if this is like a stylization of a typeface, you might use the actual typeface down here and like just type it out. So this little bit larger is easier for me to control it. Okay. Yeah. So especially if you're doing, and if you're doing something with graphics, this needs to be solid from a graphic design standpoint. Otherwise, or even like from typography standpoint, otherwise it kind of looks like you maybe aren't the best at graphics. But fortunately, by the time you get an education, you take several classes and you learn more about graphic design, typography. You will know these things. All right, good. So I centered this. This needs to be a little tighter, but I think I like that first half a little better. Yeah. So this one I think I will like use a specific typeface. Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Count that. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. 7. So that's like the apostrophe is in the center. So I'm just going to write this out. Right. Let's run kind of space as well. Let's just see. It's larger. And that's not going to fit very well. Let's just see. Yep. All right. So I want it to be like about there and there. So it's better. Might need to leave more space here if these are going to if they're going to start crowding each other. They're going to crowd each other. So I need to put more space between the two lines. Better. All right. That helps. Even that just helps me to figure out my spacing. This, I think, I might say dark field. And white lettering. So the letters will be white, this will be black, and I'm going to have a heavier. All right. Now this, I can ink this edge. And inking this, the cork back raises the ruler off the surface of the table, or off the surface of the paper. When I'm making a mark, just drawing it, sometimes I'll flip this over because it's like right on the page. But here, if I do this like that, sometimes the ink will go underneath and smear. So having the ruler, the edge of the ruler raised off of the paper is helpful because it'll keep that from happening. All right. And then finally, here's where it gets a little scary. Right? You don't want to goof it up, but I suppose this is where digital can be really handy because you can just back it up if you make a mistake. But the ability to control this and draw this out is really important because, especially with pencil, it's very flexible and you can make changes quickly, and sometimes you don't have, that's terrible, you don't have the tablet, you don't have, well, if you don't have a tablet, you don't need it. You can just draw this out. At some point, if you're doing graphic design, you need to learn Photoshop and Illustrator. They're kind of the standard. There are other less, I guess maybe less widely used programs out there too. But Photoshop and Illustrator kind of have the market dominated. Okay, still looks pretty good. I think what I might do is take a marker that's got a little bit of a better point on it. That soft brush nib is a little hard to control for something like this, although it does, would allow you to do something more calligraphic. So this is also drying out as they do, unfortunately. They don't make them the way they used to. Sharpie, old buddy, old pal. It's not so horrible. And another thing that this right here would do for me, if I'm going to work on this as a digital file, I could get it this far, even just take a picture with my phone, open it in a program like Photoshop or probably Photoshop. Although I use I have an iPad, and with the iPad I have an Apple Pencil, and I use the Procreate program for drawing. I could open this in Procreate and just keep on working on it. But then anything I do, I can undo. I can work in layers. Right? So this is a more typographical logo. And so I think if I saw this, the assumption might be that this designer works with typography, maybe calligraphy. This is not properly calligraphy. Calligraphy has it's very sort of like specific rules, but there you go. So I got an idea here. I think next I would look up a typeface that I want. I'm not sure about using a serif face because this really smooth G and the O, they don't have this. They don't have the little telltale serif on the on the foot. The D would, but it might look like it just comes from a different design altogether. So, nah, made my decision. This is a little open, this area down here, but I think I might have to try. I might even just like This might have to just be like this, something separate, because I like that. You know, like if I just block that off. I like the DGO. I think that's I think that's not too bad. All right. Good. Well, I hope that was helpful to you. The assignment is due on Thursday, so do your best. Make something interesting, as you can do. Think about image. Think about what the typography or just what the letters look like, and remember you will be turning in the drawings that you did in preparation for this too. And we will start with color theory on Thursday. I'll talk about color theory and demonstrate some painting. If you have your paint and brushes and Bristol paper, mixing cups, bring them. Okay. Any questions before we end? All right. See you Thursday.